Hello everyone, welcome to Car Wrestling, powered by Powered 4 TV and sponsored by 1310 Apparel and Superstar Pro Wrestling. I'm joined by a special guest today for an interview. Sean Only, how are you, mate?
Hello. Yeah, doing pretty well, thanks, mate. How you doing yourself?
I'm really good, thank you. Great to have you on
Excellent.
the podcast.
Excellent. Yeah, good to be here. Cheers, mate. Cheers.
No problem. So let's get into it. So what have you been doing recently?
What have not as much as I'd like to be doing, put it that way. Well, yeah, obviously, we've been in lockdown for quite some time now, for longer than any of us really plan to be. So opportunities have been pretty limited, in terms of what I would normally be doing, like wrestling wise. I'm just desperately waiting for them shows to come back. I've been keeping myself in shape. Like I'm pretty fortunate because gyms have been closed, but I've got a lot of training equipment at home. I've been speaking to a lot of promoters about ideas going forward, in terms of storylines and bookings and whatnot. Like there's also two training schools opening up pretty close to me.
Oh, wow.
One in Sheffield and one in Bradford. Well, I'm going to be the head trainer at the one in Bradford, and I'm going to be sort of like heavily involved at the one in Sheffield. So there's a lot of things to look forward to, like going forward. But like as it stands, like what I'm doing mostly is just the same as everyone, just biding me time and just hoping that it doesn't go on for too much longer.
Yeah. So my first proper question is what got you like watching wrestling at the start?
Well, how did I first like start getting into it, like as a kid or whatever?
Yeah.
It was because they showed WCW on terrestrial TV.
Okay.
Back in the day. I was like really young. We're going back to like the early 90s here. They showed WCW on terrestrial TV because like I couldn't afford Sky. That was where WWF was. So that was like I don't think I'd ever really seen any of that. I don't think I really knew what it even was at that point. I just remember seeing, because there was sort of like characters like Ric Flair and Sting and like the Four Horsemen and people like that. That's like I say, I was so young that it's vague memories. But I just remember like immediately seeing these big larger than life characters and these crazy storylines playing out in a ring, just like as I say, a very very young child. Just kind of spoke to me immediately. But yeah, it would have been WCW was the first. I was pretty much.
Oh, the Wi-Fi is a bit laggy.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yes, yeah. There's a slight
Yeah. No, it's not a problem. I was just saying. So who actually stood out for you when you were a kid?
I can remember being really enamored by Macho Man Randy Savage, like as soon as I'd seen him. I think like even from a young age I appreciated the athleticism, the things. It wasn't necessarily the super Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior type characters that were appealing to me. That had a bit of first favorites, as it were, the first ones that got me through it. Excuse me.
That's really cool. So this is one thing I really want to know, because a lot of people I spoke to, everybody has their own opinion on their like favorite match and when they were growing up. So this is one thing I really want to know is what matches really stood out for you?
So you put me on the spot, because obviously there's been a million gazillion professional wrestling matches. So just trying to think of like an immediate favorite. I think one like I say, I could list one of like millions. Particularly like with WrestleMania just coming around the corner, there's always like memorable WrestleMania ones. One that I always, every time I watch it, I always think like this has got to be just about as good a match as you could ever get.
Yeah,
is Roddy Piper versus Bret Hart from WrestleMania 8, where it sort of started out as like a babyface match, but then Piper kind of sort of semi-turned. There was just like really great storytelling, really great match performance, like working the crowd, just like, I mean, it's quite short, but like sometimes I quite appreciate that. Sometimes it's like you don't necessarily need these big like 30-40 minute epic crazy matches to get over the story that you want to get over, if you know what I mean. I think in terms of like in terms of a sub 20-minute match, I think that's about as good a match as like there's ever been.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, that is actually a really good match. I've seen that one quite a few times, and that one really stands out. So if we go forward a little bit, what actually got you? So when did you start training to become a wrestler?
I started training when I was, well, I was going to say I started training when I was really young, because it was really, really young at the time. Like I was about like 18, 19.
Okay.
Which, and like there was barely any, like I'm obviously I'm pretty old now, so I'm going back a fair few years.
Yeah.
But there barely was anybody of that kind of age really training at that kind of time. I was really one of the very, very youngest guys, particularly when I broke out and started doing like paid shows and whatnot. I really was always one of the very, very youngest guys in the locker room. Whereas like nowadays, if you're like sort of 18, 19, 20, there's probably going to be quite a lot of guys that are, at the same age, if not similar age to you, chipping about. It's just like it's become sort of more and more of a young man's game. I think like we were talking before about the athleticism side of it. I think like the athleticism side of it has become more prevalent in today's wrestling style. So it's become, like just more suited for the younger generation, I guess.
Definitely. So what was the first match you ever had?
The first match, I think like most people start out in a rumble. So I'd have probably done a couple of rumbles on shows. Like I say, when I started out, I'm going way back. So it wasn't the landscape wasn't like it is now. There wasn't like indie wrestling companies and whatnot. There was camp shows and tribute shows and like the odd town hall show here and there if you were lucky. It was like tiny, like a minuscule industry compared to in Britain, that is, compared to what it is today. So these would have just been on camp type shows, just doing a couple of rumbles to start off with. I think my first match was against a guy called Taylor Phoenix. Stephen Taylor, he's a good mate of mine. He ended up getting signed by the WWE in the early 2000s.
Okay.
But he only ever worked in FCW and NXT, I think. But he never kind of made it onto the main roster, unfortunately, which is a shame because he was like a really, really talented guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd have both literally been like little kids. Like I'd have been 18, 19, and he'd have been like 16, 17, something like that, on some camp show somewhere or other. Like I say, it's such a distant, vague memory. But I think my main takeaway from that was probably that neither of us were ready to be having our first professional wrestling match at that time. But there we were in the middle of the ring, which I think is the case for a lot of people probably.
Yeah. So another thing that I think a lot of beginners and people who want to get into the business, especially becoming a wrestler, what advice would you give someone to get into a training school and like the mentality and things,
Yeah, it's tough to put it down to one thing because wrestling is such a complicated, such a nuanced thing. Like I think like you want to know what you want to get out of it. You know what I mean? It's like so some people just kind of want to go for like a not necessarily like a social thing, like keeping fit and like meeting some like-minded people and hanging out with wrestling people. Some people kind of want to aspire to being on some shows and like stepping between the ropes and in front of a crowd, whereas some people like they desperately need to go to Madison Square Garden and be signed by Vince McMahon or whatever. And so I think it's important to know like what you want to get out of it. Like I think it's important to understand how just how complex it is and how long it takes. It's not the sort of thing that you can just go and like even when people get good at it, they're not good at it yet because it's like you need such an understanding of so many complicated things. It's not just how to take a bump, how to do a suplex, how to cut a promo. It's like there is so much to it. So it's like it's such a long, arduous journey to to get to be able to doing it to do it properly. And I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea to have that in mind before you go in, rather than like thinking about, right, I'm going to go in and go and do a load of moonsaults and run before I can walk kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, like I could. This is the sort of question that I could talk about for literally hours. Like what's the one bit of advice? But yeah, that's the first thing that comes off the top of my head.
So, what another thing I would like to know is what goals and things are you like? Wait, let me rephrase that. So what is like in the future for you? Like, have you got any goals or
my aspirations in professional wrestling? Yeah. Well, yeah, like I still kind of wanted. I've been around for quite a long time now. You know what I mean? I'm no spring chicken, as it were. I've ticked off a lot of the boxes. I've done a lot of the things that I always wanted to do. But that doesn't mean that I don't still have ambition and whatnot. I obviously would like to take it to the next level. But for me, it's kind of about bringing that next generation up. Like I say, there's two new training schools starting soon. I've been taking a slightly more active role in helping younger trainee wrestlers and doing training myself and whatnot. So like I'm not in any way. So yeah, caveat this with me saying I'm not in any way sort of slowing down my own professional wrestling career, because I do still have a lot of ambitions. There's still a lot of things that I do want to do, despite the fact that I've been around for a long time. But yeah, like going forward, my main kind of focus is really kind of thinking about bringing up the next generation and teaching them the right way of doing things, being like a positive influence and like a positive role model to, like I say, get people to do the things the right way. Because I think like with a lot of the controversies that have come out surrounding British wrestling, there's maybe quite a bit of history of people that have been brought up like not necessarily being shown the right way to do things, and that's maybe why we've been in some of the trouble that we have been in. So yeah, that for me going forward is to do as much as I can to help with that sort of side of things.
No, that's something that a lot of people want to hear, and it takes a lot to but yeah, so if we go on to WrestleMania, as it's just around the corner. Yeah, so it's Takeover tomorrow night, and the night after. So what's your thoughts on them?
Well, I've not really been following NXT too much.
Okay.
So I'm not. I'll be honest. I'm not really too sure what I will be watching. That's the thing. I always watch the takeovers because they're always such. I mean, like you can't miss them, can you? You know,
no.
I mean, they're always quality shows. But like, there's so much TV and so much wrestling TV to take in.
Yeah.
I just simply don't have the time for it. So I never really know what the matches are going to be. To be honest, it's quite enjoyable. It's quite a nice little surprise because they're always such good workers. I never know who's going to be paired up with who, and it's never, you know what I mean. It's never going to be a disappointment. So yeah, the takeover matches are going to be a big surprise for me. But I've actually probably partly because of lockdowns, like I said, I had a lot more free time on my hands. But I've been sort of quite avidly following Raw and SmackDown leading up to WrestleMania, which is the first time I've really kind of actively watched WWE TV like week in, week out for like quite some time. So for the first time, I'm all clued up on what's going on with all the WrestleMania matches. So it's not the most exciting build up, but having said that, like I say, because I've not really actively watched the product in so long, it's quite exciting for me, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm particularly looking for like the whole sort of Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, Edge, and obviously Paul Heyman and Uso kind of embroiled in it sort of storyline, which has been going on for like months and months and months. That's for me the best thing on TV at the moment. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. That's just been absolutely fantastic.
So one question I would like to ask, I don't know if you're into these two wrestlers, but what do you think of Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's for the women's title, isn't it? Yeah, that should be great. I mean, they're both like phenomenal female workers. Sorry, not Sasha. Bianca's obviously like having the rocket strapped to her, like being pushed to the moon treatment sort of since did she win the Royal Rumble to qualify?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. But like deservedly so. She's that was it, of course, because she cut that incredible promo after the Royal Rumble, which I think that kind of proved to everybody, like, that she's fully deserving of the push that she's given her, because she's generally pretty consistent in the ring. as far as the sort of WWE female talent goes. But like, she's found a way of putting her character over and making it something that you can care about and something that actually, you know, seems like something worth caring about. But like, basically, so she's done a really good job with that.
Yeah, definitely. So where would people be able to find your on like social media and things?
Yeah, if you search Real Sean Only, it's the same for Twitter and Instagram. As little as I've been using them during lockdown, it's like, for the most part, you know, it's like, oh, this is what shows I've been at, and this is what I've been doing while I've been at shows, and, you know, promoting matches and all that kind of gubbins. But there has been none of that to promote. So I haven't really been as active on social media as I normally am. But yeah, long answer to a short question. Yeah, real Sean Only, Twitter and Instagram, and yeah.
That's awesome.
There's plenty of me about. Just look for me on the internet. I'm easy to find. Despite the fact Sean Only is quite an annoying name to search with the word only in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, no worries, pal. No worries at all.
I'll have to get you back on again soon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, just happy to come on whenever. It's been
thank you so much.
A good chat.